Okay, mic check 1 2. So I know I'm a little early, but the end of the year is going to get really busy for me. So it made more sense for me to do this now than try and do this closer to the end of the year. What I want to go through are my top 15 Switch pickups for 2023. And as I go through this list, you may see a couple games or a few games that I've mentioned before, but these are the games that really, to me, were some of the best pickups that I was able to get my hands on this year. Let's not waste any time. Let's just dive right in. The first one is going to be a space shooter. This is Raiden, Makido, and Maniacs. So this is just another version of Raiden 3. This is a game that I've played. I also have Raiden 4 as well. They've got a few Raiden games on the Switch. This is one that I saw that they had a deluxe edition for. The price on this isn't dropping. I was hoping that on Black Friday this would have gone down at least a little bit. I think I saw a discount for this game on the PS4. You can get it, I think, at Best Buy for like $29.99 or something like that. But Raiden is a shooter, top-down, bullet hell. It's not like that 2D art style, but it has kind of like that 2.5D, almost reminds you of like PlayStation 2 graphics. Good music. If you like space shooters, you'll like this one. Raiden on the Switch. This was definitely one I was glad to pick up this year. Another awesome pickup that I was able to get my hands on is this game called Smelter. This is a game that reminds me a lot of ActRaiser 2, where it has like action platforming elements, but then you also have like this world building type of element to it as well. This is a cool one. I don't think that this game has like an official US release, so I got the import version. But this is a cool one that I was glad I could get my hands on this year. So Smelter on the Switch. Another one that I've spoken about a lot, Gal Guardians Demon Purge. I've been playing this. I have this on the PlayStation 4 as well, so I've just been playing it on the PS4. It's a really fun game. It's kind of easy, but sometimes when the game is easy, it makes it easier for you to get into it when you're not like having to hunt for stuff and, you know, when the game just becomes tedious. This has a nice flow to it. I like the moves that each character has. It sucks that, and I forget their names, but the girl that has the blade, for some reason, she has like a lower health meter than the girl who has the gun. But the girl with the blade, she just does more damage, like, you know. So I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if there's a way to even up their health. But let me know down in the comments if you've been playing Gal Guardians. This is a very cool Metroidvania style game. So this is one that I was glad to get. Here's one that I was super stoked to pick up. Gargoyles. Good old Gargoyles, man. You know, Gargoyles is a really sick game. I remember when it came out on the Genesis, and it's funny, I actually have it here on the Genesis, right? I remember when this game came out, much like Pocahontas, you know, the graphics, right? Disney, they make quality games. So a Disney game may not necessarily be fun, but I can tell you what, it's definitely going to look good and the music is going to be good. And, you know, Gargoyles is a great example of that. The music in this game is great. I like the fact that Goliath can climb the walls. I like that he can stomp through cracks in the floor. You know, the scenery around you in this game is very interactive. The one thing I wish, and I know that this game really isn't like a beat 'em up per se. It's more of like an action platformer. But I do wish that, one thing I wish in this game is that the hits were more pronounced. Like when you hit an enemy, you could actually hear the smack or the thud. That's the one thing I miss. But other than that, I mean, listen, this is a great game, and now you can play it on the Switch. So gave you a sneak peek on some games. Don't cheat, don't look. But yeah, Gargoyles Remastered is a really cool one. I'm sure there's a ton of features here. I haven't played it yet on the Switch, but I'm familiar with the game from playing it on the Genesis. And so I was glad to add this to the collection. This is a really, really cool one. I'm glad Limited Run did this. I was waiting for them to do something like this. All right, you already saw the next couple games, so let me go ahead and talk about this one. This is Canon Dancer. Now, I can't remember if this is a TurboGrafx game or a Neo Geo game. It's one of those. This is a game that came out on one of those consoles, I believe overseas. This is basically an action platformer. This game plays a lot like Strider. From what I've seen in the footage, I have not had a chance to open this one up yet and play it. This is Canon Dancer from Strictly Limited. You can still pick this up, I think, from Strictly Limited. 29 bucks or something like that, or 35 bucks or something like that on Strictly Limited. So this is a cool one. Yeah, Canon Dancer. This is an old school game that they just re-released, which, you know, Strictly Limited's done that a bunch of times. I had actually Clockwork Aquario. They Strictly Limited actually produced that one, but I had the collector's edition, so I sold it. But yeah, Canon Dancer is a cool one. I'm glad I got my hands on this one. It's just unique. You know, these are just games that I never see when I walk into Best Buy or GameStop. So I'm always glad when I can kind of get my hands on some of these. You saw this one, so this one's really, really cool. I'm glad that I was able to get this one, and you're going to hear me say that over and over again. I'm glad I was able to get that. But this one I'm really stoked about because I do not own a physical copy of Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, or I didn't, and now I do. Because in this Castlevania Advance collection, which this is the collection of all the Game Boy Advance Castlevania games, which are some of the best, you know, some of the greatest. I think, what is it Aria of Sorrow? There's a number of them here. Look, they're all in the back. I don't even need to guess. So Circle of the Moon, which that's the cover that I got. I got the Circle of the Moon cover. I think that one looks sick. Then you have Harmony of Dissonance, yep, and Aria of Sorrow, which was my favorite of the three in this series. But I mean, look at that. For Game Boy Advanced graphics, like yowzers. Just really, really great work on these games. But let's get to the meat of it, right? Dracula X. So this is the sickest part about getting this collection, is that along with it, you also get Dracula X. So I never owned a physical copy. I know the cartridge on the Super Nintendo goes for like 400 to 500 bucks, but screw that. Now I have my own copy along with some great Game Boy Advance games. So this one I'm super stoked to get in the collection. Next one up, Moon Rider, Vengeful Guardian. You've heard me talk about this one before, quite recently, in fact. This is a game that plays a lot like Hagane. So if you're into that whole samurai, cyborg, hack and slash with a whole bunch of weapons and moves, this is the game for you. That whole 2D pixels art style, glory. Glad to add this one into the collection this year. Another one here, Nom Mutation. I think I've talked about this one on my channel as well. This combines a lot of elements that I'm kind of into. You know, it's obviously a side-scrolling hack and slasher, but she also has, I think, projectile weapons as well. This is a very action-based game that requires timing and precision. I like games like that. They force you to concentrate and be accurate, and when you're able to pull moves off and parry and, you know, attack and time your attacks, it's just something so satisfying about being able to do that. You'll definitely get a ton of that in Nom Mutation. And I think there's also like a few 2.5D, like kind of like open world style elements to this game too. Haven't played it yet, haven't dove into it yet, but from what I have seen on the footage, this one was one that I was glad to add in there. Here's one that I have played, and then I just got stuck, I think, midway, like in the beginning part of level 2, because it requires you to use the grappling hooks. But Steel Assault. Steel Assault is a very cool game, a very colorful game, a very vibrant game. The music reeks of 90s action. The main character just looks like something I would have saw in an after-school, you know, cartoon series. It's a fun game, but it's hard, man. This game is difficult. You know, the main character, he has like this laser whip that he uses along with, I think, a couple other weapons. But as you can see here, there's this grappling mechanic in this game that you use to like get across areas. but you kind of have to time it right. And, you know, I found the mechanic a little challenging, just timing it and everything like that. And there's levels where you have to use it to beat bosses. There's a part where I think you're fighting on an airplane and you have to kind of like use it diagonally, to kind of stay afloat, to dodge enemy attacks. So this is just a tough one, you know, but it is a fun one. And I downloaded it before the physical version came out. So when I learned that they were releasing it, I was like, oh yeah, I got to get my hands on that. There is a game that I cannot wait for them to physically release. I don't know if they ever will, and I'm sure if they do, it'll sell out like that. But Katana Zero, limited run, strictly limited. One of you guys, you need to release Katana Zero. We need a physical version of that game. If you haven't heard of Katana Zero, go look it up. That game is sick all the way around. That's probably the best Switch game I've ever played, story-wise and everything. Go look it up. Anyway, back to regularly scheduled programming. River City Girls 2. This is one that I added. I've had a ton of fun. I haven't beat River City Girls 1 yet. I got pretty far in it. Learned a bunch of moves. And River City Girls is one of those games, like when you're playing it, to really get good at the moves, like with timing it and being able to like beat up a bunch of enemies without really taking little damage, you kind of have to keep playing it to kind of get like used to the moves and knowing when to use which moves for anti-air attacks and ground attacks and rush attacks and stuff and counter. So you know, once you stop playing it and like you pick it back up again, if you've made it really far but you just lost all of that, you know, all the just the secondhand skill that you learned from just playing a game a lot, you know, you'll kind of have to start over again and learn the moves and combos again. But River City Girls 2 is a cool one. Glad that I was able to add it, just in a continuation of a really good beat 'em up series. River City Girls does it right. So this is one I'm glad to add. Here's one that I'm also glad to add, the Contra collection. I was able to get a few collections this year. Some I haven't been able to show on here, but the Contra collection was one that I was able to get. This is childhood for sure, especially Contra, Alien Wars. Never really was into it too much on the NES. My brother was for sure, but I actually owned Contra 3 on the Super Nintendo when I was a youngster. So beat it a bunch of times. I've tried to do the whole no death playthrough. That's how much I played this game. I mean, it was to the point where if I died, I would start it over. It didn't matter if I was on the second to last level. I wanted to kind of get through it with no deaths. That's how dedicated I was. But yeah, this is a good one. Contra Anniversary Collection. Glad to have added it this year. Here's a cool one. Someone down in my comment section let me know when I first mentioned this game that this is all based off of a Netflix series, which is supposed to just be like a play on 80s, like, you know, action, I guess a play on 80s TV. And it was a Netflix series, and so I guess they made a cool beat 'em up game out of it. And Kung Fury, I really like the cover of this game. I'm just gonna say that, not because I'm a huge David Hasselhoff fan, but just this is so retro, right? So like, it's just so retro. The headband, all of it. So I thought that was cool, and it's a beat 'em up. If you watch my channel, I love beat 'em ups. This is an arcade style beat 'em up at that. 2-player co-op story campaign. Come on, yeah, this is Friday night. This is a Friday night one for sure. So this is one I'm glad to add. Kung Fury, I'll eventually get to this one. Cool looking one there. Won't take too much time on this one because recently spoke about this. Jamestown. Very colorful and bright. Shoot 'em up. I feel like the folks that developed this game are the same folks that developed a game called Gestalt Steam and Cider. That's like a action, like hack and slash game. Plays a little bit like Blasphemous. I think the folks that made Jamestown is making a game called Gestalt Steam and Cider. That's one I would definitely look up or look into. Hopefully they come up with a physical release for that game. I think it has a digital release on Steam. I don't know if it's made its way to the Switch yet, but that's a very good looking game. It shares a very similar art style as Jamestown, which is just a beautiful sprite-based top-down shoot 'em up. Got a lot of room to work on this one, a lot of bullets, but I do like the fact that you can upgrade your weapons You know, get new weapons. There's like a, you know, a cash collecting system where you can build up your plane, boosters, and all that. So, very good one. Jamestown. Check it out. Don't sleep on it. It's a good one. All right. And then we've got Flynn, Son of Crimson. This is one, Son of Crimson, rather. This is one of two super rare games that I picked up that I was glad to get my hands on. This is a very colorful action platformer. Just very, very good looking game. Again, not one that you would see too often. I think Super Rare has this available on their website for the PS4. So if you haven't heard of this one, Flynn, Son of Crimson, if you like colorful action platformers, I would check this one out. And then last but not least, I spoke about this one before, Hacou. Everything about this game feels like such an art piece in my collection. I just really love everything about the artwork on this game. Just whoever created this, you know, it's like this just feels like a combination of so many of my favorite characters growing up as a kid. And then just the way, you know, the color, I don't know if the term is monochromatic. Somebody let me know down in the comments when only a certain, you know, a few colors are used. But they use this color scheme that's just so different in this game. Hacou is definitely one that I'm glad to have added. Again, another one that I haven't cracked open physically, but got to taste a little bit the download version. It's a good one. I would look into it if you can get your hands on it physically. Check it out, but I am glad to add Hacou to the collection. And those are my top 15 Switch games that I was able to add this year. Glad to have added those, but I do have some honorable mentions. First is going to be Double Dragon Gaiden. This one recently came out. A pretty cool beat 'em up. It's not on my top 15, but it definitely gets an honorable mention. You know, I love my beat 'em ups. 2-player local co-op. Gotta love that. This week's Friday night, all over it. Saturday night, after you've done knocked down a couple slices of pizza, you stay up for a few hours trying to beat this. Here's another one that gets an honorable mention from me, and that's Dead Cells Return to Castlevania. I'm a huge Dead Cells fan, but when you add in some Castlevania elements in a game that I'm already fond of, that just heightens the experience for me. So I was glad to have picked this one up. This gets an honorable mention this year. And then last but not least in the honorable mentions category, Moonscars. I'm a huge fan of the game Blasphemous. And Moonscars just kind of feels like the secondhand, the broke down version of a Blasphemous. Just everything about it kind of it just feels like they were going after that whole feel, that whole Blasphemous feel. I don't think they executed it as well, but I mean, look, it's a game. It's a hack and slasher, and I'm willing to check it out because it does look like the style of games that I'm into. So those are the runners up. And then I didn't just run into some good times with the Switch in terms of games, but I was able this year to actually do a traded some things in, and got my hands on an OLED Switch. And the crazy thing about it is that I still haven't even opened this up. So this is a brand new OLED Switch. Never took it out the box just because I still, for the longest, was using my Switch Lite, my teal blue Switch Lite. And then from there, I started using my my other Switch. But I've been playing my PS4 so much that I was like, you know, I'm not just going to take this out just to play it yet. When I'm ready to get into it, I will. So never got the chance to dive into the OLED, but did pick up an OLED this year. Was glad to get that. Super sick and super clean. So I'll be glad to dive into this when I get to it. That does it for me. Let me know, what are your top pickups? What are your top 10, top 20 Switch pickups for 2023? I am interested to know. I am the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.